Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to do this granny square. This is the granny square that we started in class this week. This video is in two parts. I'm going to show you the first two rounds on this video, and then the second video shows the remainder of the square. So to start out, the first thing we need to be able to do is make a slip knot. In order to do that, there's many different ways to make a slip knot. This is how I prefer. You take the short end of your yarn, have it facing down over top of your fingers. You're going to wrap it around the back of your fingers and up over the front to make an X. When you pinch the X and pull the yarn off your fingers, that has made a loop. Then you take the long strand of yarn and push it up through that loop. You're going to hold on to the small end of your yarn, that's your tail, and onto that loop that you made, or the yarn that you pushed up through the loop, which makes your loop, and pull those. You don't want to pull it too tight because this will slide freely, and you'll be able to use the long piece of yarn or your working yarn to tighten that. So what you're going to do is insert your hook into that loop, and then I hold on to the knot and pull down on the long yarn, that's my working yarn, until it tightens up the loop around my hook. And you want it to be snug, but not so much that it doesn't move. So now we've created our slip knot. We are going to go ahead and chain 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And remember, chain is yarn over and pull through. Once we've done that, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to slip stitch to the very first chain we made. Now you can either slip stitch into the top of our first chain, or I like to actually go into the back. So I like to flip it over, and you'll see on the back there are these little bumps. I like to work into that bump, or the back bump of that first chain. So insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through, and that is a slip stitch. So you might have to pull it apart a little bit, but now we have created a ring, and that is what we are going to work into. So on our pattern, this is where we are. We have done chain 1, 2, 3, and 4 around, and then we've slip stitched back to the very first chain. So this is where we started. We went around, slip stitched, made a circle, and this pattern is read entirely counterclockwise. So now we're getting ready to start our first round, which starts with what I'm calling an alternate double crochet. It's a single crochet on top of a single crochet. To do that, we're going to insert our hook into the center of that ring that we made. So we're not actually working in a stitch, we're working in that ring itself. So we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is a single crochet. We're going to do a second single crochet, but this time we're going to work into this leg of our single crochet that we just created. We're going to insert our hook underneath that vertical bar, or the leg of our single crochet. And we're going to do a second single crochet. So we'll yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. At this point, this is where we would insert a stitch marker. To insert a stitch marker, you'll notice I'm going to take that hook out so it's not in our way. But this is where our hook would be, and this is the stitch that we just created. So you can see it looks like a V. We're going to insert our stitch marker directly underneath or into that V. I'm going to use a paper clip for this. I actually usually prefer bobby pins, but I don't have one on me right now. Or you can use just a traditional stitch marker. So I'll take my paper clip and I'm going to insert it, like I said, right underneath of that V, and it's both loops there. So I'll insert right there, and that has marked my stitch. That tells me where I'm going to work back around to. I'm going to put my hook back through my loop. This that we've just made is this alternate double crochet. That's single crochet, single crochet. That is where we're going to work back around to. Now if you look at our pattern, you're going to get an idea of what all the clusters look like for our granny square. We have actually created the end of a cluster. So when we come back, we're going to, when we've made it all the way around, we'll finish out that cluster and then join on there. So we've made the last part of a cluster. So what we're going to do now is we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And the chain 3s turn our corners on our granny square. We're going to do chain 1, 2, and 3. So we've chained 3, and we're going to do our next cluster. A cluster is 3 double crochets all at the same time. We are going to continue working in to the circle that we made at the beginning. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 1 double crochet. We're going to do that 2 more times. Now you'll notice we're kind of running into the knot that we created at the very beginning and our tail, and that's okay. What we're going to do is just hold those along with our circle, and we're going to crochet over top of them. And what that's going to do is it's going to start to weave in our end for us as we go, and that's going to give it just result in less work for us to do when we have to tie in our ends at the end of our work. So I've done 3 double crochets. That brings us to here. Now we're going to do 3 chains, and that's going to turn our next corner. So 1, 2, 3. If it's helpful, you can rotate your pattern as you work so that it's matching what you've done. I'm going to keep working for now. So I've done chain 3. I'm going to do 3 more double crochets. So I'm at my next cluster here, and that's 3 more double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. So I've made my next cluster, that's this one, which brings us to 3 more chains. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to have to go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm at my next cluster now, so 3 more double crochets. Still working in the circle. You'll notice it's getting a little tight, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold on to the base of my double crochets that I just made, and I'm going to hold on to where I began on the other hand. I'm just going to slide them around my circle. It's just going to make some more room for me to be able to continue to work. So I'll do the next 3 double crochets. And all this time I'm still holding that tail with my circles so that I'm crocheting over top of that still. It's still tying my tail in on the back this whole time. I'm going to slide that around just a little bit more. So I've completed this cluster. So I'm up to chain 3 again to turn my last corner. 1, 2, 3. And I'm back to this top cluster. So like I said, we've already done the last of the 3 double crochets. So we just have 2 more to do. So we're going to do double crochet, and then we'll join to where we started. So that's 1, and 2. And then we're back to where we started. Now my stitch marker has fallen out. This is where it was, however. So we're going to insert our hook into that stitch where our stitch marker is, remove the stitch marker, and we're going to slip stitch. So it'll be yarn over, pull through, pull through. And that has finished out our round here. Now if it looks a little bit crooked, I like to just stick my finger in those holes and kind of give a nice little even tug and make it look a little more square. You can see that's what we've created so far. We've created this first round. To go to our next round, we've done this first slip stitch. So the slip stitch is the solid dots that we see. We've slip stitched and joined. Next we're going to slip stitch over 2 stitches, and that's going to take us to the center of our corner, and that's where we're going to build up. So see, it'll take us over to the center, and then we'll build up from there. So I'm going to slip stitch across. Here's where I am. The next place is right here, and it's coming up off this first double crochet that we did. That was the alternate double crochet, and this chain that we're going to work into is kind of looks like a little arrow pointing over to the left. That's where we're going to insert our hook to do the next slip stitch. So we'll just insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, and what slip stitches do is, for one, they join, and then for two, they work us across our work so that we're moving without actually building height of stitches. And then the last one is this middle chain, and it's a little bit harder to get into, so you can either really work your hook through and go through both of the loops, or I just usually work into the back loop. Let it focus here. This is my back loop, so I'm going to just insert my hook here, and then yarn over, pull through, pull through. So now we are in the middle of our corner, and we're ready to start again with moving up to our next row. To do that, we're going to just do exactly what we did to start our last row, which was that alternate double crochet, which is a single crochet and then a single crochet. So insert your hook into this corner space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's our first single crochet. Our second single crochet will go into this vertical bar, or the leg of our single crochet. So we'll insert our hook there and then complete our single crochet. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So that counts as our first double crochet, which is actually the last double crochet of the last cluster, which we will join to when we work our way all the way back around. So once we've done this alternate double crochet, we're going to chain 3 to turn our corner. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to do another cluster, which is 3 double crochets, and we're still working in that same corner space that we were working before. So 1 double crochet. And what I like to do is I like to hold my fingers in that hole that we're working in, because what happens, or what can happen, is we just created another hole, and you don't want to accidentally turn yourself and start to work in that hole instead. You need to keep working in this same hole that we've been working in. So we're going to, that's 1, 2, and if you ever are unsure, follow where your loop is and follow straight down, and that'll show you where you're supposed to be working. So that's 2 and then 3. So that finishes our corner. When we continue to work now, you'll see this is where we are. We just did this 3 cluster. We're going to chain 1. And you'll notice a chain 1 is going to go above a cluster from the row below. So here's the row below. We had a cluster, so we're going to do a chain 1, and that's going to just move us across our row. And in this case, it moves us to our next corner. Here's a corner. Our corner from here on out is 3 double crochets, chain 3, and 3 double crochets, and those all go in the same corner space from the previous row. So here's my next corner space. I'm going to do 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, that turns my corner. I'm going to continue to work. You'll notice I was getting a little tight there, so I just gave it a little tug to move them over. I'm going to continue to work in that same corner from the previous row. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And that has created our next corner. 3 double crochets, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. Now I'm working above the cluster from the row below, so I'm going to chain 1. And that brings me over to my next corner space. So I'm going to work in my next corner space and do a corner, which is going to be 3 double crochets, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. Okay, and I'm going to continue doing that around. So I've completed my next corner. I have 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets. I'm working above a cluster from the row below, so I'm going to chain 1 and move over to my next corner. So I'm going to be working in the next corner space, creating a new corner, which will be 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets. Now, I'm out of yarn, and so I'm going to use this as an opportunity to show you how to change colors in case you run out in the middle of a row. So to change colors, you always start your stitch. So I'm going to start my double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I'm going to do the first yarn over, pull through 2. And now, instead of finishing my double crochet with this color, I'm going to do my final yarn over by laying my new color over top of my hook, holding the tails of my old and new yarn together, and then pull through my last 2 with my new color. And then it does usually help if you just kind of give a little tug on both those tails, and then I'm going to pinch them along with the chain space or the corner space that I'm working into. I'm going to crochet over top of those so that I can start to weave in my ends, just like we did with the tail in the beginning. So that's the second double crochet, and I'm using my new yarn now, and my third. Then I'll chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to continue to keep double crocheting over top of those tails, which is going to weave them in for me. Now I'll still take another pass and weave them in whenever I do get to the end, but at least it's like I've already gone one weave through with them, I could say. Okay, so that finishes out that corner. I have a double crochet cluster below me, so I'm going to chain 1 above it to move across, and this takes me to my final corner, which is where I began. I've already done the third double crochet, that's what we started with, so I just need to finish it out with these last 2. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that hole, into that corner space, do 1 double crochet, and then 2, and then I'm going to join to the top of the one that I started with, which if you didn't use a stitch marker and you need to try to identify it, you can either count backwards your chain 3, or you'll notice it sits down just a little bit lower than your chains do. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull through and pull through, and I'm going to back that up just to show you one other way in case you can't find where to put your hook. So this is the initial alternate double crochet that we did. You'll notice it looks slightly different than a regular double crochet. A regular double crochet has these 2 legs and then a bar and kind of another set of bars on top. The alternate double crochet has 2 legs and 2 legs and a top. So you can kind of follow the 2 legs straight up, and when you get to that top, that's where your hook's going in. So you're going to insert your hook again, pull through and pull through. That gets us to the end of row 2, and again, if it's not looking exactly the way you want it to, just kind of give it a couple little tugs here, make it look a little bit more square. So we've completed all of round 1 and all of round 2, and this is where the second video will pick up, and it'll show you how to finish out the square.